I would like to welcome everybody to the November board meeting of LTD. And we'll begin by roll call. Gino Grimaldi, is not here tonight. Pete Knox, here. Kelly Sutherland,
Here.
Lawrence Green,
Here.
Michelle Weber,
Here.
Heather Murphy,
Here.
and Susan Cox. Okay. Are there any adjustments to the agenda?
I would like to pull item D from the consent agenda for discussion.
Okay, thank you. And are there any CEO comments?
Sure, thank you. Just a few. There's a tradition, LTD, that I really didn't know about. For the past 28 years, the finance department has won the Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting Reward. 20 years, 28 years. So I want to thank them for that. Part of the criteria for that award is having a constructive spirit of full disclosure. So we talk a bit about transparency. We talk a bit about that, and that our finance department has been doing that. So I want to thank that group for the hard work. They've had a hard year, hard 2 years. It's been tough ever since we've been here, from leadership change to ERP system and things. So I want to thank you for your consistency that way. Speaking of ERP, we did bring on some help in project management for that project. So hopefully that'll help get that closer to the finish line. And we also brought on a paralegal and a manager for procurement as well, so we can get those systems moving a little more swiftly. Working for the FTA can be hard. Lots of hoops and hurdles and things in compliance, and we want to make sure we do that right. Eugene Station, the work there is just about done. I believe we have a grand opening set for December 5. January. It will be January now. We are still almost done, but we'll have it in January. More time to plan. Get on your calendar, and you'll get all of the information when that date is solid. Thank you, Eric. Post-event activities for the state of the district. We met and talked about that. Getting good positive feedback about that event. I want to thank the team for the hard work and getting that across the finish line, and you all for attending. We've sent messages out to the participants. We are sending a message out to the attendees tomorrow. Part of the reason we wanted to wait was because we got that Attain grant a week after the event. We wish we could have got that before, but it kind of tells the story of what we were talking about at the event. So we want to show progress that way. We also are going to be integrating our Connect 2045 movement or long-range mobility plan with our new website design as that kicks off. So we're going to maintain that contact with that group. And then finally, I had a really good meeting last week. I termed it as my most important meeting, most valuable meeting last week. It was a lunch with a bus operator who had celebrated her 30th year still here, and her spouse, who's been here for almost 29 years. So almost 60 years of experience at the table. And when you get that experience at the table, you be quiet and listen. So that's what we did. Some of the feedback she gave me was relating to retention strategies that we're thinking through. She also followed that up with a well thought out email with other suggestions. One of the things she mentioned was the built environment of this building. From an operator standpoint, doesn't sometimes make them feel comfortable when they come into the administrative side. So we recognize that, and Matt's team had the foresight to look at the design of the OCC, and that will address some of those issues. I purposely left Joe out of that highlight, Joe's team and Matt's team. You're welcome, sir. Took that into consideration as we redesign the Operations Command Center, which is underway right now. The clanging and banging has stopped for the day, but if you come back midday, you will hear progress in action. We anticipate that being open next fall. So we'll invite you back for that. But the design for that does invite more teamwork and collaboration. So we're happy that that was baked in. So we'll give you more updates as that gets closer to being complete as well. With that, I'll end my comments. Stand for any questions.
Any questions? Thank you. Now we'll move on to the consent agenda. Okay, so we're going to begin with adoption of resolution 2024-1111, 20035, the Giro.
Are we approving individual? We don't
Oh,
usually.
sorry.
No, so we can just make
Right,
a
I'm sorry.
motion to,
I move to approve the consent agenda.
I so.
As amended.
Wow.
Second.
You guys were quick. Okay, all those in favor, or do we need to go individually? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
Aye.
Thank you, Kelly. So now we're going to move on to business information. And the first thing. Oh. So we want to talk about the travel policy changes.
Yes, thank you. So that was my request based on some experiences that I've had traveling on behalf of LTD. So one of the changes in policy is to include use of personal credit cards with prior approval to facilitate booking processes. And I just, for clarification purposes, does that include board members?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Yes.
Because my experiences have been hotels when they're booked on corporate cards, they, we're there and there's not necessarily somebody there to check us in. And so and it can just kind of be a little bit of a challenge to navigate some of those things. So just wanted to make sure that for both hotels and airfare, we can use personal
Yes,
credit
and
cards.
our goal is actually to, help you guys as much as we possibly
Right.
can. So when you travel, we always usually have a member of the staff that go with you. So our hope is just to make it easier for you so you don't have to do that. But yes, that would be something that you guys would be able to do with your own personal credit card.
Okay, awesome. Just having faced a couple of challenges, I just wanted to make sure that, we can kind of avoid some of that in the future.
Yeah.
So, okay, well, that's really all I just kind of wanted to cover.
Thank
So,
you.
yeah,
Anything to make life easier, right?
exactly. Yeah.
Avoiding travel, you know what? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. And is there a motion?
I move the adoption of resolution 2024-11-20-038. Travel policy. Did I do that one?
And is there a second?
So I don't think there's a resolution that goes along with this one. Doesn't show that on, I think that was on a prior agenda, maybe.
Oh,
I'm not sure.
it's on mine.
There
It's got a.
should not. I think we can just move to approve
travel
to
policy?
adopt the travel policy.
Okay. I'll change. I amend and move to approve the travel policy.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Heather,
Aye.
Lawrence,
Aye.
Michelle,
Aye.
Pete,
Aye.
and Kelly.
Aye.
Aye. And yes for me too, so it passes unanimously. Okay. And now we are ready for employees of the month. This is exciting. We have more than one this time. So the first one is. Michael.
Hi, my name is Amy Reichert. I'm LTD's Chief Performance Officer. I'm very excited to be here tonight to recognize Michael Bateman, LTD's Senior Network Engineer. Here's how you know that Michael's doing a really good job. You never see him. You don't meet him. You don't even know his name. But a lot of people here know Michael's name because he always goes above and beyond to solve problems for LTD. We've had this recent move over to modules, which you don't know, there's a lot of wires running over there, and Michael has literally been up to his chest in those wires, solving problems for us just today. First, let's acknowledge Brianna. It was a long day for Brianna here. Michael was a big part of that. We're working on upgrading the technology in this room here. It's needing to be upgraded a little faster than we expected, and so that means Michael's pretty much on call, making things run here, and we really appreciate that. Do you want to say a few words?
Just not great at the public speaking, but I am super honored by this, the mission of this organization, the quality of the people here and the dedication to service is above all. So that I would even be considered for this is like very touching. So thank you. And
It's wonderful.
yeah,
Thank you. You have to do this a little longer. It'll be worth it. So, again, very cool. A certificate. A letter for your records. This will be fun, especially at holiday time. And this is my favorite. So congratulations. Thank you very much. You're welcome. Thank you. Oh.
thank you, Susan. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you. Okay, so I will just stay here and we're going to recognize Sandra Wells.
Hey, everybody, I'm Eric Evers. I'm the Director of Fleet Management. It's my pleasure to recognize Sandra Wells tonight. She's our executive, well, I won't say executive, she's our administrative specialist. The fleet team, as you see in the back of the room, has been or went without this position for well over 3 years. At some point, we were like, we probably need a little bit of help. Lots to do over there. And when you go to search for someone for a fleet team, fleet's unique language, unique systems. And we interviewed several people for the position, and this is the perfect fit. She takes care of so many things. First of all, cares for the team. Highly engaged with every department across the district. Everybody knows her. She's doing NTD reporting, managing maintenance management software. She's become the expert. You would think she's probably been here 10 years when she's only been here just over a year now. It's my pleasure that you've been selected for this, so congratulations.
I just want to say, and I mean this genuinely, that I really, really love working. Some of the nicest human beings I've ever met, and coming to work and really enjoying who you work with. I mean, look at that crew right there. How could you not enjoy working? It really means a lot. So I feel really lucky that I've landed here. Thank you guys for taking this time. Thank you.
That 3 years that you waited was worth it, right?
Well,
Here's a pin. Okay, awesome. And certificate. A letter. Thank you. Something fun. Yay. And then the best part. I think so. I think so. And great. Oh, no, we have to.
Right, we get it.
Yeah.
Be great.
Yeah, the best looking part of the team. I'll hold on.
This is where they can start a flash series.
How are you, sir? Good.
Bless you. You're all right.
Squeeze it in.
Yeah, squeeze it in, folks. I'll be in the front.
Here we go.
We're good.
Perfect, thank you.
Congratulations. We'll have to make sure those pictures get on social media. Okay. So now we're moving on to the public safety update. Josh Schmidt. That's okay. Yes.
Self in this chair. It's wonderful to see employees of the month come up like that. It's great. So thank you, board, for allowing me to be here tonight. Give a public safety update. My name is Josh Schmidt. I am the Public Safety and System Security Manager. Tonight, I want to just kind of, like I said, give an update of where we're at, where we're going. Don't have this. There it is. I can just start. Sure. So we're going to be speaking on current personnel, in-house training, ATU and LTD agreement, system trends, TSA and CETA evaluation, short little stint on some Narcan, and then our community partnership. So right now, our current personnel, we have 16 public safety officers. Fiscal year 25 projected to have 24 and a half, 2 public safety supervisors, 1 senior public safety administrative specialist, 1 public safety and system security manager, and 1 director of operations public safety. Since January, we've hired 12 officers. So we've been in that hiring pool as well, along with operators. The 24 and a half FTEs that we're looking for, we started looking back in COVID time where we were looking at our public safety officers and where we were at. We started to build our public safety department. And what we did was I reached out to multiple transit agencies, similar size, to kind of figure out where we were at, what we were going to do with our public safety. Safety is important for all of us, not only for our operators, frontline employees, the public, and for my officers as well, for them to be safe. So we started out 8 officers, moved to 12 officers. We're at 16. And again, we're trying to get to that 24 and a half FTEs for the fiscal year of 2025. Really what that looks like is we're going to be able to deploy a better group of people, closer knit. They're going to be able to provide a greater presence on the platforms, which we've already started to see. This next picture shows our group, those 4 empty photos down there. We just hired them. We have 4 people that are in training right now, started on the 12th and 16th, or 5th and 16th, I'm sorry. And so we have 16 officers right now. They are doing a great job out there. You've probably seen them if you've ridden the system or been at Eugene Station or Springfield Station. Those faces are a wonderful addition to LTD. In that group, just want to make note, we have Employee of the Year in there. Just saying, that's in public safety. So in this, our in-house training, we have Public Safety Supervisor Brad Korth and Sean Hughes. They come with some great experience. Brad Korth, 13 and a half years as a trooper, then as a deputy sheriff. And then Sean Hughes, 18 years with the EPD. So we've got some great experience in our department. Through this, we've looked at some in-house training. It's been something that's been asked about, so we're going to develop that. We're developing it now. We're bringing it in. We've sent our 2 public safety supervisors to AVERT training, which is active violent emergency response training, and ASP training as well. And then they just got back from DPSST training. And anybody know what DPSST is? No? Department of Public Safety Standards and Training. It's the department that basically tells us you can do security, and they set the standard for us to go by. So we were sending our guys out to do training throughout different locations, but we're going to bring that in-house so we can get some more focused training of how LTD does this and how we want it done. Through this ATU LTD agreement, this is something that's happened. We reached this, it's going to be effective through June 30th, 2028. Something to note here, we started negotiations in April 23rd. We brought it before you folks, July board meeting. Pretty quick turnaround, pretty impressive. This is a great time for us to be doing this. Our officers were needing a new contract and needing really to come up to that level where we could get some, more folks in the door. So our current areas of focus, West Eugene MX and the Old River Road Station. So West Eugene MX, we continue to have some challenges. It's out in the west. It's out away from our Eugene Station. It's a little farther out, but with added officers, we're able to patrol that area more. We get some challenges out there, some trespassing, but we're working to gain some real-time data and some KPIs to address. And through that, we're looking at some technologies. Fare validators on MXs. Ridden MX, there's no fare validators on there. We'd have ticket machines on the stations, but no fare validators. So that's something that we're working on. In October, we were testing MX fare validators on the lot to see if getting on the bus and validating fare was going to keep the speed going, because it's bus rapid transit. We want it moving quicker. And in that, some of those technologies are handheld validators. So my officers, when they're getting on and checking fare, can walk through, check fare, and actually validate that fare. It's just live, it's real. It's just like the validator that would be on a bus. So it's something that lets people know we're checking fare, it's required, and it helps that presence be on those buses. And with more officers, we're able to provide that presence. River Road Station, we've devoted a lot of resources to this piece of land, including fencing and active patrol. So that's out River Road. We patrol that often as well. So our year-to-date ordinance 36 violations, as you can see, the blue bars across from January to September, and these are all ordinance 36 violations. It comes across and it looks like it's a lot, but in the next slide, if it's comes across. So you'll see that it looks kind of funny where it looks like a lot, but really that blue bar and that yellow bar are all of the violations. So trespassing, as you can see, is what we're dealing with mostly. All those other little ones is that blue bar, and it's only 63 more violations than what we normally see, which is really, we're dealing with people that have, done some things, but we're dealing with that, and it's helping with our officers. That trend is really dropping down. If you go back to the slide before, that trend is starting to drop off, and it's attributed to, and what we see is more officers out there, that presence out there, and we're working with road supervisors as well in operations to provide that presence to help bring that down. So through this, we've done security enhancement through assessment, which is a CETA through TSA, and that's a Transit Security Administration. So in this, we have done 2 assessments this year, and consisting of a bag drop. It's something that TSA is partnered with us to come in, and they'll drop bags on buses. And when our operators go out in the morning time, they'll go through and do a pre-trip inspection. And it's something to keep them aware. It's just a test to make sure that we're paying attention to what's on our lots, what's on our buses. And so we do really well. LTD has been known for being consistent with that. We push our pre-trip and post-trip inspections. And then we did something different this year. I worked with TSA to do not just a bag drop, but we had random people check our areas. They actually tried to walk in through our gated areas to see what was going to happen. And we actually had a couple people, more than a couple, stop them, exactly what they're supposed to do, and make sure you have a badge. Are you supposed to be here? Where are you going? And it's to keep us safe. We have people that try and come in. They don't always mean to come in. They see an open gate, they walk in, they're in a wrong area. It's like when you're in an airport, and you've got people looking all the time. That's what we should be doing as well. Being vigilant to keep ourselves safe, keep our buses safe, and we'll continue to do these types of assessments randomly. I didn't even tell Jake about this assessment with people coming on. It was something new that we were doing because I really wanted to see what we were looking at, if people were paying attention, and we were. We scored 100% on that. We did a really great job. So in this, our public safety using Narcan, officers and supervisors were given Narcan training and issued Narcan starting March 2024. Sarah Koski, you're familiar with her? We partnered with her. She came in, got some community partners, Whitebird, some other folks came in and did some training and developed some SOPs to allow us to assist our community partners with Narcan. Narcan has been highly used throughout, not so much here, but we do have it on our persons, and operators have the ability to come in and actually get training too. But really what we focused on is our supervisors and our public safety to be able to administer Narcan. And then through that partnership, we've worked with EPDs, SPD, our community partners. And in this, LTD continues to collaborate with the city of Eugene and our community court program. I don't know if you're familiar with this. It's something that we've been involved in since 2016. So through misdemeanors that people are involved in, they're not able to necessarily get to where they're going. But we have a community partnership. We provide passes to them to be able to get to appointments. And it's been a successful program. It's a partnership that we have, and it allows that close relationship with local law enforcement to be able to have that back and forth. So we know who's out there and we're helping people to, people make mistakes. We all do. It's an opportunity for them to be able to get back into the community and get to where they're going. They need that helping hand sometimes, and it's been effective. It's been helpful. So through that partnership, our public safety received an award from Springfield Police, and it's the Chiefs Award for working with them. And it's been a great award. They were recognized in the middle of that picture there. Not to brag again, but that's Employee of the Year. So that's Quentin Price. He's one of ours, and proud of our team that's been doing this partnership. We get a lot of times we're working with local law enforcement and others, and they recognize us. It was a great award, and it was great to have our guys go there and get that award. And it was a wonderful time. So, do you have any questions, concerns?
Pete. Yeah, thank you very much. I don't really have a question. I think you went over things pretty thoroughly. But I will say that, as you know, I'm a transit rider, and I ride the West Eugene MX
Yes,
relatively frequently, and I do see the presence of your people out there, and I do think it is making a difference because I do see, because that line can get a little squirrely sometimes.
Sure.
And I've seen some really interesting things, but I do see people kind of getting the message that we have eyes on them. So thank you very much to your team.
Thank you. And that's where we're really looking to deploy more as we gain more PSOs. We're going to put them on the MX line, and then really out West Eugene. It is the west area. It's farthest away from the Eugene station, and then as we do that, we're looking at doubling up our officers as well. EPD, SPD, we've looked at the different entities. They're looking at doubling up their officers for safety for their officers. Then we can provide safety to our operators and passengers as well.
Oh, Michelle?
Thank you for the drill down on the ordinance 36 violations.
Sure.
It's information that's good to see. I'm just curious, under the weapons, what does that look like? Is that before they come on the bus, after they're on the bus, and how do you navigate those situations?
So weapons can be consisted of a lot of things. People use different tools as weapons. So though, mostly our mind goes to that weapon of, that's the big scare is a gun, right? But really that's counted in, it can be a stick. It can be, anything that they pick up. So that's what we're looking at, and we'll notice that. And, we address those things of, if it's not a walking stick, we're addressing that. And people carry things, they always do. Someone's carrying a baseball bat and they have a baseball mitt and they're going to practice. Generally it's a baseball bat, but when it's tucked in a backpack, it can be considered something else. So it can be considered a weapon. So we look at all those, and we're constantly monitoring that. We'll address that if we see that. And, that's where that comes from. Yes, sir.
One of the things that we have is a camera system our MX line. It's been really beneficial in what you're talking about. So we're actively monitoring that, and we're able to see real time something's going on or somebody has something kind of funky. We can start sending people before a bus gets there, so we can, and maybe call EPD if we need to, if it's something that looks a little bit more serious that maybe we don't even want to mess with. So to answer that question a little bit further, it's all over the place.
Yeah.
The answer is yes, on the bus, on the platform, but we're preventing a lot of stuff on the platform just with our presence with our public safety officers before they even get on the bus, for the most part. Yeah.
Thank you.
Great. Other
that
questions or
answered it.
comments? It's a great report.
Thank you.
I like the little secret shopper kind of idea. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. And the STIF formula plan review, Dave Roth.
Good evening, board. My name is Dave Roth, Director of Mobility Planning and Policy. And tonight I'll be providing an update on our STIF, or Statewide Transportation Improvement Fund, formula plan development process. And before I get started, I just want to acknowledge that I'm not the only one working on this on staff. We also have Kathleen Flynn, John Allen, and Cosette Rees, who are really instrumental in putting this plan together. So I want to appreciate their support. So tonight I'll provide a little bit of background, which you've heard before, but for the benefit of the viewing public, we'll go over a little bit again. I'll cover the timeline that we're operating under. We'll look at our funding and revenue outlook, which is table 1 in your agenda item summary. And then we'll go over the draft project list, which is attachment 1 in the AIS. And then we'll leave a little bit of time for discussion and Q&A. So I'll start off by just saying that the update tonight follows our meeting that we had back in October, where we brought to you some discussion around some new concepts that we were proposing to include in the STIF formula plan for this biennium. And then we're preparing you for a decision, most likely that will occur on December 18th at the board meeting then. And I'll get into more detail on timeline shortly. So again, background. So LTD and the board is the qualified entity who's responsible for approving the STIF formula plan. And we've been through this several times in the past. When the plan is approved, then it's submitted to the Oregon Department of Transportation. Then that becomes the plan and the spending plan for our formula funded projects over the next biennium, which is FY26, FY27. So the STIF formula fund program distributes 90% of STIF revenue generated in Lane County by formula, and that's primarily by payroll, but also population-based as well. LTD is the entity authorized to distribute STIF formula funds allocated in Lane County, both within the district and outside of the district by sub-allocation method, which is described in the formula plan. LTD is also a public transportation service provider, and there are other public transportation service providers within Lane County who are eligible to request STIF formula funds. For this biennium, we have requests on the formula side from LTD as a public transportation service provider and Lane Council of Governments as a public transportation service provider. So if you look at that project list, in attachment 1, you'll see LTD's projects, the bulk of the projects, and then a few that are submitted by LCOG. And another important aspect here of the plan development process is our STIF advisory committee. I just want to acknowledge board member Pete Knox, who is sitting on the STIF advisory committee. We had a meeting last night where we presented more detailed information on our projects and our most up-to-date funding and revenue outlook to the committee last night. All right, so in terms of timeline, we started this process a while back, back in the spring, actually. But the timeline here on the AIS starts off in August, which is when ODOT provides the notice of solicitation for formula funds. I'm going to just jump ahead to the November item here. You'll see November 4th was our first STIF advisory committee to review the draft formula plan. We had our meeting last night, so November 19th, and then we have 2 additional meetings on the calendar right now, December 3rd and December 10th. So we may or may not use both of those. For sure, we will use the December 3rd meeting. If the STIF advisory committee reaches a decision to recommend the plan for approval at that meeting, then we won't hold the December 10th meeting, and then the decision will be made by the board on December 18th thereafter. We also have January 8th identified here as a potential special board meeting in case we need it. We think we're pretty well positioned to have a decision on that December 18th meeting, though. And then again, the actual STIF formula plan is due back to ODOT on January 16th. And we do need a bit of time, our STIF formula team here on staff, to actually put together the final plan and submit that to ODOT on the 16th. All right, so I mentioned this before, public transportation service providers and who submitted projects. So LTD and LCOG make up the current draft list of 37 projects. And I should mention, it's not really current anymore because this is a bit of a moving process. And at the time we submitted the packet materials, it was current, but in that time we've had another STIF advisory committee meeting and we've done some additional work. So there have been a few adjustments to some of the projects, and I'll talk about that in a moment. In terms of the formula plan, most of the projects represent a continuation of previous STIF formula funded categories, such as our specialized and accessible services, transit service increases on our fixed route system, vehicle purchases, passenger fare programs, and rural services. And I did note that we were here in October talking about some of the new concepts, so those are represented in here as well. One other thing that's important to mention here is that we use STIF dollars to leverage other funding as well. So we're using these dollars to maximum effect to leverage additional dollars, whether it's other federal dollars, state dollars, or other funding sources. All right, so I think I can just give you some of the numbers here that are important to look at on table 1. So we can anticipate that the estimated formula funds available for the next biennium from ODOT are about $16.8 million. That's underneath the application total line. Says ODOT estimated available funds. I think we just recently got another update just a few days ago that it's looking like they might be just slightly higher than that number now. We won't know until January after we submit the plan what the final totals will look like. It's important also to note that we have carryover dollars that we are putting into the plan for this year to expend over this biennium, and that is in the amount of $17 million. And you might ask, why do we have those carryover dollars? I think there's a couple of big projects from the previous biennium, one of them being service increases in the amount of $8 million that we were unable to expend during the past biennium for reasons that you are well aware of in terms of just not having enough operators to deliver that service. Of course, we're in a much better position now to expend those dollars on service increases going ahead. So total of 16.8 estimated formula revenue plus the carryover looks like $37.16 million in total. And if you look at the draft plan as it was submitted in this packet, we were over that amount by $4.5 million. So what we're doing right now is we're working on making adjustments to individual projects to even that out. So we need to have a balanced budget for the STIF formula plan We're making good progress. We got some great feedback from the STIF Advisory Committee last night on how we go about that. And I think I'll stop there talking about the revenue and expenditures and then turn to the project list. Now, I won't go through the project list line by line. Again, a lot of these are things that we've done before and we'll continue to do. We'll continue to use the formula dollars for these projects and programs. I will mention that some of the things that have changed since we submitted this packet include the announcement of the Attain Grant Award. So that award changes some things for us. So for one thing, we do have the Attain match requirement in the plan. So that remains, and it's a $1.3 million match requirement from STIF itself. However, we have a couple of other projects, Project 14 and Project 17, that change because we were awarded Attain funding. So Project 14 is the Mobility on Demand pilot project, and then 17 is a trip planning mobile app. So both of those two projects are accomplished with the Attain grant. So we're gonna shrink those down. And there's a couple of ways to approach this. When I say shrink them down, there's a strategic approach with the STIF formula plan that we can include projects, but reduce the project budget down to, say, $1 per year during the biennium. And that allows us to maintain some flexibility going forward to reallocate money within our STIF plan to individual tasks or projects as long as they're in here. So the strategic approach for us is to, on some of these, to probably maintain a line item for the project, but the budget will be much smaller to maintain flexibility. So one other thing that has changed as well, so there's some reductions there, but we also had an increase from LCOG for their Link Lane low-income fare program, just a small increase, I think, of $6,000. So anyway, we're in the process now of taking feedback from the STIF Advisory Committee and working as staff to get the project's right size for our budget. And that's what we'll be doing over the next couple of weeks. When we return back to the STIF Advisory Committee on December 3rd, we will bring them a proposal with a balanced budget and seek approval or recommendation from the STIF Advisory Committee at that point. So with that, I think I'll stop and just see if there's any questions or discussion.
I'm interested to know, it sounds like, there's a lot that has to be done. Is that December 18th goal, is that realistic?
We think it's achievable, yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah, even if we require both STIF advisory committee meetings, I think we have the okay to get our materials in for the board right up at the last minute for that 18th meeting.
Good.
Yeah.
Pete, do you have anything to add from being on the committee?
Yeah, actually I do. Just about the committee, the last couple of meetings have been mostly informational, and I think we'll be taking some action, I assume, in the next meeting, but unless get stuck. But Dave and other staff, including LCOG, have done a really good job of getting us through a lot of information. And each of these projects, they're all great projects, and there's a lot of devil in the details. But I foresee that we'll probably have a very productive meeting in a couple weeks.
Good. Kelly, you have a question?
I don't have any questions about the presentation, but I just did want to acknowledge Dave Roth and his presentation to the MPC committee this month. He just did an absolutely excellent job, and I just wanted to make sure that I acknowledged him for that.
Thank you, Kelly. Any other questions? Okay, then we'll see you on the 18th.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks for acknowledging the rest of your team. And now we're going to listen to Matt tell us about the community investment.
Yeah, thank you,
I
board.
just have to say, all the ties tonight, you guys are looking very good.
Yes, we coordinated. But thank you, board. My name is Matt Imlach, and I am going to be communicating on our community investment plan. I will probably reference through the presentation the CIP. So that's if you hear an acronym and you don't know, let me know. I will watch your guys' faces. But if I use CIP, that's what it is. So next slide. So what we're looking at is just an agenda. Some of these slides will be familiar for some of you who have been involved in the CIP process before. And even if you were at the finance committee, you'll see recognize some of the timeline that we're going to. But we'll talk about our timeline, look at some framework of where we come up with projects, as well as talk about the projects as a whole. Next slide. So this is what we're doing for timeline. So if you were at the finance committee, you also saw this in a presentation Pam provided for us. And it kind of just goes over our whole entire budget process. The CIP has a component in the budget process as well as our long-range financial plan. Our CIP is a plan. It doesn't have budget authority. That goes through the budget process to ensure that what we're planning for in projects can actually be funded and therefore allocated. So here we are today looking at where it's November, and just going to give you a brief update on projects. We will be coming back the first part of the year to show you projects as we're looking at forecasting how are things going and progressing along, as well as looking at the funding strategy to ensure, hey, where's the funding component? How does that match up? We do have a policy that really looks like we want to, it's 70%, I believe, is a percentage where we say we want to leverage those competitive financial dollars and not utilize all of our general fund. So next slide. Here's our framework overview. Some of you guys have seen this. Hopefully all of you have seen this, but it is a process that we go through. Dave shared just before me just about there's a process we're going through the STIF, the Statewide Transportation Improvement Fund. And we're meeting with the committee to talk through some of these projects. Some of the new projects we'll talk about has been going through that process. And so as those conversations are happening, those are going to be reflected in our community investment plan. So now we're getting into the numbers. Next slide. And this is the fun part. You probably can't read every single project. I can't read every single project. In your packet, you probably can read every single project, but I do want to highlight 4 in our conversation. But if you guys have any questions about any of the projects, please stop me and I would love to answer that. But the first one, Dave kind of stole my thunder, was what we are calling the Regional Mobility Enabling Technology. We've released news releases about the ATTAIN grant. The ATTAIN grant is really what this project is. So how does LTD, from a regional perspective, deliver mobility? And this comes with a technology aspect. And so this project is the one that we put forward through the ATTAIN grant, which we were awarded. So as you're aware, that's kind of looking at the Bethel area for really pursuing what are some options for us to deliver service there, which really goes back some into our strategic business plan of that transformational work that we want to do in regards to delivering transit service to the region. So that's a good one. And for those who don't remember, this is a $5.2 million grant, which is an impressive grant for us to get to. And that was released in a grant for those who may be online to look at on our website, October 28th, 2024. So that's something to celebrate. And that project, the first you saw that actually in our community investment plan as we're looking forward, was our last CIP presentation where we're saying we want to go after this. We didn't exactly know if the funding was going to come through. We actually got the funding, and so we're continuing to move forward, and we're excited. The 3 other projects that I'll highlight all have an asterisk by those. Those are new projects that we're bringing forward. The first one is our rear-facing ADA securement. The other one will be our transit shared mobility integration and modernization. And the last one we'll be talking about, is our fare management system. On the next page, you'll actually see all those. So if we're not there, That was my failure, not progressing, but those are the three additional projects. Talking about the framework and how we go through the process, some of the projects you'll see in the previous presentation are actually noted. So project 21 in your STIF formula plan actually references our transit shared mobility integration and modernization. When I read that first, I'm like, what exactly is that? Thankfully, at the back of your slides, you'll see a description, but as the community, our bike share program, what some of us in the community know as Peace Health Rides. That's a project where that capital investment is beyond its useful life. We have a partnership with Peace Health that kind of supports that, but those assets, the bikes essentially are failing. And so this project is to look at how can you modernize regionally the bike share program. So that project is reflected in our community investment plan with a funding strategy of our formula dollars that you saw in the previous presentation. The next one is our rear facing ADA securement. This project, we don't have full funding figured or any funding figured out. We're actually in the process of piloting kind of a rear facing securement. So in our fixed route buses, if you have a mobility device, usually you park your mobility device and you usually face forward. So the rear facing one we're testing out is to see, can you give somebody, an individual, more freedom in regards to securing themselves? And so there's a company out there that we're piloting on where an individual who may be in a mobility device can press a button and they secure themselves without having any interaction with an operator. So that's the key thing of providing people independence without needing operators' interaction. So you can go onto the bus, find yourself in this rear-facing securement, push a button, and then you're fully secured and protected. We piloted this in 2016, and it didn't work out. There's a lot of issues from a quality control standpoint, so we brought them back in this year, actually, in our piloting, and we're getting great reviews. We've been placing buses at our stations, Eugene Station and Springfield, and getting positive feedback from passengers who need that and would like that. Because it takes a process, we want to make sure that it's successful first, to then see if we want to invest our assets or dollars into it. And so we have that shown. This is a new project, and if it is something, we'll start planning from a funding perspective. That dollar amount, it's just under $1 million, does not show or have LTD replacing all of those in our fleet, but it is strategically looking at how can we replace certain assets in our buses. That was a lot of words. Hopefully that made sense. And if you have any questions, feel free. Phew. The third one is our fare management system. That's a new project, and that's LTD has a lot of kind of strategies out there that are kind of like decoupled from each other. So we have, Josh made mention of our ticket vending machines on our MX platform, where an individual can come and receive a ticket essentially showing that they paid for fare. But then also on some of our fixed route buses, you have the box essentially where you can give operator dollars and they'll end up giving you a ticket for the day. And then you also have our UMO pass, where you can flash a badge in front of this reader, or you can do your QR code. And all of those aren't a seamless process. And some of those technologies are well beyond their useful life. So this project is looking at how can we bring in a lot of our fare management to a singular cohesive environment, not only for LTD, but also looking at other partners. So if someone's on Diamond Express, which is a service from Oak Ridge to Eugene, if they're riding that service, then can they transition onto one of our fixed route buses and it'd be a seamless process versus different, not as seamless. So that's this project, and it's looking out for the next 4 years on that. Ooh, thank you, guys. The next slide really looks at our state of good repair. All the projects are the same as we've seen throughout the last previous CIP presentation, so nothing's new here. We can look at the next slide where it kind of brings everything together and kind of look. So these are, for me, this is the key thing of where is LTD spending our dollars in? And the largest kind of bar graph at the very bottom is gray, and that's fleet. Fleet is our largest expense from a continued state of good repair that we are going to do. We're investing in our buses, whether that be our fixed route buses or our specialized services. Those are the things that we're continuing to ensure that we can keep on the road. And when I see that, that's shows to me it's right sized in regards to where we're investing our dollars. So the bar graph does show some peaks, but usually the state of good repair, you want that relatively flat throughout. And we're starting to achieve that as we're investing in the right things. So with that, I will take any questions and happy to talk about any project that may be on the list that you have additional comments on.
Any questions? I love that term, state of good repair. Questions, comments?
That's getting off easy tonight.
Yeah. Okay,
Thank you guys. Appreciate it.
Okay, and Sam KQ is going to give us the legislative update.
I'll get the clock up there, perfect. All right, got it. Take 5. Got it, Brandon. Thank you. Nice. So good evening, board. Hi there. My name is Sam Kelly-Quattrochi, or Sam KQ is totally fine. I'm a government relations manager. I'm here tonight with just a quick update. Legislative affairs, state, federal, local. How are we doing? What are we working on? What to expect for the next 6 to 8 months? Before we begin, please feel free to stop and interrupt with questions if you have them. Happy to take them in a moment or take them at the end. And then I made these slides before election results in early November. So these will be a little general. I will dive into them deep. I'm happy to play in the weeds with you all, but had to keep them a little high level. Didn't know where things were going when these were due. So you may not see things on there. If you want to talk about them, let's dive into it. I already forgot which button to push. That one, cool. Don't take 5. So I always want to start off with our mission, vision, values. I think this is important to the work we all do here at LTD. This is the work that I think about when I'm in Salem or I'm in DC lobbying on behalf of LTD and our work. And I think in the spirit of this, I just want to quickly highlight tonight's also Transgender Day of Remembrance, which is actively going on in our community. Folks have candlelight vigils going on. For some, this is a heavy but important day, and I want to take that moment just to acknowledge that as we begin this work and keep those marginalized in our minds as we work tonight and going forward. So with that, my agenda, we'll start with the federal update, some of the 25 appropriations, earmarks, how we're doing, move on to state stuff. There'll be a lot of meat in the state conversation for sure, and then move on to questions if you have any. So generally, advocacy, what are we doing at LTD? What are we working on? So locally, which I left off the slide and I apologize, we're working very closely with our neighborhood groups, especially in the city of Eugene. Staff are attending those meetings, listening, asking questions, being involved. Chambers of Commerce, great local partners as well. Counties beyond Eugene, Springfield, engaging those communities, and then in the years to come, working closely with our tribal groups and forming those relationships as well. Statewide, we do have state contract lobbyists, Oxley and Associates. We've had them for several years now. They're great. They are folks who are born and bred in Salem, know the Capitol inside and out, help me get the important meetings. I'm also working with the Oregon Transit Association, OTA, the Oregon Transportation Forum, Special Districts Association of Oregon, all these great groups. SDAO is currently working on federal legislation to change how local governments are defined. During COVID and the CARES dollars, places like LTD, Willamette Lane, special districts weren't considered local governments and were left out of some of those funds that went to cities and counties. So they're looking at that language and why is that happening? So paying close attention to their work. Federally, again, contract lobbyists, Smith, Dawson, and Andrews, long-standing relationship with them. They're an incredible group of folks living in DC, helping us get great, very important meetings, knowing the folks out there who to work with. Working with the American Public Transit Association, APTA, Bus Coalition, Community Transportation Association of America, lots of great groups staying involved with their lobbying work, legislative work. Jameson's actively involved in some of these boards, some of their meetings, so they're very helpful to be a part of. Have United Front, we'll mention United Front more later on, but I want to give a brief kind of overview of this in case it's a new term for you all. So this is our group federal lobbying in Lane County. So its current members are Lane County, cities of Springfield, Eugene, LTD ourselves, Willamette Lane Parks and Rec, 4J School District, and Springfield School Districts. The goal of this group is that any money for our community is good money, and we lobbied in DC together every year. Other members of that have included U of O in the past. I believe some of the utility boards were there at one time. They kind of come and go, but the idea again is group efforts and showing the need for our community while we're in DC together. So federal update, this is where I'll take on with to ignore my slide and talk about election results. So President Trump winning the election, we sort of know what to expect. He's been president 4 years ago. We have some ideas. He's sort of talked about Project 2025, sort of hasn't. So it's kind of hard to get a direct idea of where his policy lands on transit precisely. However, we did see in his past term that he did raise funding. He is from large cities. He knows how important buses are, how important transit is to his community. There's probably going to be a focus on reducing federal guidelines and strings on these funds, maybe, so we may get funds easier. Which requirements they cut yet to be seen. I have heard rumors of the RAISE grant being changed to that, so we're actively working on our RAISE grant application to get that signed in case that loses funding or changes how it can be used. We don't want to lose that opportunity for our area. Congresswoman Hoyle won her re-election seat. She's a great friend of transit, great friend of Oregon. Been down here several times. Looking forward to working with her again and her team. I was not in this work under President Trump's first time, so I'm not sure what his team will be like, but Congresswoman Hoyle's team I know very well, and they're actively down here all the time. So taking a step to the 25 appropriations, they're yet to pass a budget bill out of Congress, so they're still operating under a CR or continuing resolution. So they passed last year's budget for this year to give them some money to avoid that all-famous government shutdown. So where they are with that is it'll expire December 21st. So they got a little over a month to figure things out right before the holidays. Hopefully we can get TSA paid if we're all flying out end of the year. In the two bills, in the Transit and Housing and Urban Design THUD, the Senate side bill has $21.3 billion for public transit. The House side has $19.6 billion. So there's a pretty big gap, $1.7 billion difference there that they're going to need to reconcile and come together on before they can pass a budget. So we'll be watching the next month closely. A lot of exciting things to come out of that for sure. Included in that THUD bill is an earmark for LTD. Earmarks, we love them. They're fairly straightforward funding line items projects for communities. So our earmark is looking at EV charging for non-revenue vehicles. So that's some admin vehicles out here, some of the ride source vehicles. That's currently in that bill. If it passes, it should go through and we should receive those funds. Historically, earmarks were a little more partisan. We have since in the past 3 years seen everyone love them, except for a few folks who hold out that they'll never use them. Most electeds use them, bring them back to their communities. It's a great way to bring funding for projects that matter. And so I think we'll still see those stick around in the coming years. Again, United Front, a whole slide on them. They're a pretty big deal. So this is our group lobbying effort again. We come together, staff are meeting throughout the year to develop the book, as we call it. This is our artifact we leave behind with each of our meetings. This group's been together for just shy of 40 years with, again, that mentality of any money for the region's good money. We work to sort of hash things out before we're in DC. We never want to be fighting in front of a legislator about funding or opportunities. So we're talking about who's applying for which funds, why are you applying for them, how can we help? Are there opportunities to work in tandem, work in parallel, or if we're both going to apply, how do we differentiate ourselves enough to not take funds from each other? I think an example for the coming years from my work will be working with Willamette Lane on our rangers, on their rangers and our TSOs, our officers, recognizing them as public safety officers in the same caliber as police. More often than not, they're not considered that same caliber and funding can be challenging. So that'll be a group effort to kind of get that recognition that they've deserved in their hard work. So in this trip, we go for about 3 or 4 days. It's looking like early spring, hopefully my birthday. I would love to be in DC when the cherry blossoms are blooming. Usually I will go, we'll bring a board member. Usually the CEO comes along as well. For me, it's kind of like painting. I spend lots of months prepping, talking with staff, getting one-pagers, and then we get there and I kind of got to watch the experts, you all, spin and fly off. So I get to have a great time. Unfortunately, you are the ones in the meetings, talking to the electeds, doing all the hard work while we're there. We'll meet with the big three, so Senator Wyden, Senator Merkley, Congresswoman Hoyle. Those are always very, very fortunate, great meetings, and then we'll hold department meetings. FTA, we'll meet with FEMA, the governor's in office out there. And then there'll be a chance maybe for me to slip away and watch meetings the cities are having or the counties are having with folks that may not be a direct transit tie, but I'll get a chance to be there, maybe back them up, support their initiatives, or just take furious notes to bring back to LTD about what else is happening in our region. So that's federal. So let's dive into state. State elections are still ongoing. There's one kind of key race left in the House, but Senate side Democrats looking like they're having a supermajority, which for Oregon is 3/5, which means they can pass revenue bills on their own without any Republican support. We didn't have this before. That kind of led to the power of the walkouts we had a few years ago. So in the Senate, we probably won't be seeing that again. The House is down to a single seat in District 22. A couple of days ago, it was a single vote difference. I think as of 5 o'clock last night, it's 123 votes with Democratic candidate in the lead. So they haven't called it yet. They'll finalize the votes in a couple weeks. It's still close enough. They could ask for a recount. I believe Representative Kramer is kind of leading up towards that process. So if that goes through, that would be a Republican or Democratic supermajority in the House as well. House, Senate, governor. So kind of the polar opposite of our federal government. Oregon will be the fully Democratic side, which could lead to some interesting federal state challenges and conversations. But we are coming into our 2025 session. So January 21st, they'll bang the gavel in the Capitol for 160 days. So all the way through June. This is the long session. This year, 2024, was the short session, about 35 days. Usually a long session, we'll see thousands of bills come and go. Very exciting time. Traditionally, short session is much quieter. This year was a bit different with the governor's focus on housing. Millions of dollars was pushed out in about 35 days to lead to housing development in Oregon. So a little exhaustion, a little whiplash for some of us, but we're excited for a long session, time to look at these bills, engage in them, have a dialogue, get consensus, and get some of the work done. Legislative days has been going on. So in September, the legislature met. They held 3 days of sort of staff meetings of all their committees. Most of the folks are kind of bringing forward presentations, information, topic, except for Department of Forestry. They get a chance for a quick budget bump, mostly because of wildfires. Hard to budget for those every year. So they get a chance to re-up their budget. But most folks like ourselves are there listening to see what kind of tells there are, what kind of bills we might see. There'll be a second one of those in early December, and we should see a few bills start dropping then. And that'll be a pretty exciting time. Priorities for the session, housing and infrastructure, those are the governor's top two right now. In the short session this year, infrastructure had to lead towards housing. So it was roads, sewer, stormwater, electricity. I think we're gonna see a lot more of that. Of the available housing land in Oregon, a lot of it's hard to get to right now. We need infrastructure to build the housing there to get to her goal of 30,000 housing units per year. The other big one is transportation. And you may recognize some of these headlines, some of these headlines. No headlines. There we go. Some of these headlines. So glad you're here, Brianna. Thank you. So every 8 years, Oregon goes through a massive transportation package, and we're due for one this year in 2025. Already, folks are starting to kind of posture where they are, what their funding needs are, what their ask is going to be. That top one, that one really came out early from ODOT. They had $1 billion and to cut 1,000 positions. Counties are looking at bridges on infrastructure. Cities likewise looking at roads. Everyone's kind of putting out their numbers, their need for improvement, what it looks like. And that's kind of the field LTD is going to step into as well. We are part of that package. In 2017, the last package, that's when STIF was created. That's our payroll tax that funds the vast majority of what we do. STIF is due for a re-examination and probably an increase. The OTA hasn't released an official request yet. That number is still being worked out, making sure we have a clear explanation, defense to what that might need to be and why. Largely, though, STIF has been a pretty great success. The Joint Committee on Transportation came through all the counties this year. Their stop in Lane was back in early July, where numerous nonprofits spoke about the benefits of transit, how they use those STIF dollars, why it's important to them. So a lot of folks are seeing STIF as being a great tool for transit, for equity, and for transportation. That same committee is holding work groups right now. There's 3 of them, maintenance and operations, transit, and then unfinished projects from HB 2017. That was the last bill we had. Those are going along pretty well. It's made up of a lot of different groups of electeds, content matter experts, community members. Everyone's getting a chance to kind of provide input, hear things, with the ultimate goal of helping build a package for co-chairs McLean and Gorsuch. But there's still more work to come, right? So what's next? What are we expecting? I think obviously we'll be seeing a STIF increase, or at least maintaining STIF and protecting of STIF. Transit needs this. It's very important for the work we do. A road user fee is being talked about more and more as sort of gas tax becomes more challenging as you see more electric vehicles, less folks paying the gas tax. There is a current optional road user fee, so you could opt into it right now if you wanted to, but a broadening of that, maybe a requirement of that. System development charges, SDC, you hear about them a lot at local government levels. These are charges when you build new things. What's the impact of that building on the system? In our case, the road system, and they assess a fee for that. Those are always hotly contested amongst developers and builders. Could we be seeing a gas tax increase? ODOT put out their $1 billion would require $1 more gas tax. But gas tax, only half of it goes to ODOT. So you would need a $2 increase in the gas tax to give ODOT their $1 and their $1 billion. The other half of that goes to cities and counties. So impossible to imagine $2, impossible to imagine $1. So our legislators will need to look at other places for this funding, trying to find creative ideas. If you have any, let me know. I'll pass them along. We'll see what we can do. I think that's a good enough spot to leave it, end it with questions, if you have any, and thank you for your time.
Questions?
I'm assuming we're gonna hear quite a bit about the transportation package. I remember when it came through before. I know we've heard a little bit about it already, but just, do you have any thoughts or forecasts on that at this point?
Yeah, so absolutely, we'll come back to you. And then maybe a question I had for you all is how do you want me to come back to this board? When the bills drop, I'll be tracking them. I'll have a power Excel sheet. Happy to share it with you all so you can see where we are on all the bills across the board. What are we going to see in the package? Everyone wants a piece right now. It's hard to know what it is. Everything seems pretty dire. I think this sort of points to issues with the general tax structure in Oregon, property taxes, general fund, still no tolling, still no sales tax. I hear sales tax quietly whispered, maybe a little bit less quietly this year than past years, but I'm not sure we're at a sales tax point yet. I think it'll be a big year. It'll be a long, drawn out year, I think, with lots of conversations and drafts of packages. Yeah.
Sam, I really appreciate the concept and the effectiveness of the United Front here in Lane County. Is there that same kind of collaboration or cooperation? I always feel like, frankly, it's Portland and then everything else. So just to make sure that the lower part of Oregon has the same attention. So is there collaboration with the Metro folks?
Yeah, so transit providers and the Oregon Transit Association, OTA, are very closely aligned and working together. We meet weekly right now, to prep for that. I think LTD is in a great spot to help lead these conversations because we are big like TriMet, but we're not with the problems and issues TriMet faces. We're still relatively working well together, cohesive, and get a chance to kind of show what big dollars can do and help out wide ranges of community. And there's definitely a need to include rural and smaller transit this session. We're not going to get a package through if it's just Chariots and Salem, ourselves, Rogue, and TriMet taking 75% of staff, and then we kind of, throw pennies around. We need to include rural transit, get them to the major cities that they need to, and also within themselves what kind of transit they need. So it is there in transit. It is there locally as well. We're talking with Eugene, Springfield, the county, making sure we're all playing in the right lanes and playing together if we can. And not kind of taking our own funds away from each other.
Right. Thank you. Jameson?
I just want to add in, I was in the industry during the previous administration, and at the federal level, transportation is usually bipartisan. I remember the FTA administrator during that time was a lady named Jane Williams. Big friend of transit, still goes to all the transit conferences. She was on the advisory board for one of our consultants that does our strategic planning. So she big friend of public transportation. So I don't anticipate a lot from FTA side. I think there'll be a change in leadership. There may be some loosening of some regs. There may be some not as much money for electric vehicles coming out as we saw the last 4 years. But I think that we'll still be moving forward. I think your point is well taken that the incoming president is from urban environments and understands when transit systems shut down, economy shut down. And conversely, that party also understands that rural transportation is important. So I don't anticipate that. On the state side, we are having conversations with TriMet. Sam said it, I think, accurately, that we're kind of uniquely positioned to have a bigger voice in Salem, I believe, because of our service area and what it looks like and the relationships that we have with our jurisdictions. So I think that's important in that we go to Lane Act and we participate there and make sure that we're all on the same page.
Anything else? Okay, thank you, Sam. Okay. Other business, so move into other business. Jameson, can you highlight the monthly reports for us, please?
So in your packet is the delegated authority report. If there's any question, thank you. If there's any questions on that, happy to answer. You'll see some charges that went through related to the state of the district that are contained there. And I'll also highlight one for professional development program, which is a continuation of something that we started last year for our managers and how we approach the business of managing. In the monthly department reports, you'll notice an uptick in marketing in terms of outreach events. Sam mentioned that we were doing neighborhood associations, but we're also doing community outreach, making sure that folks know what's available to them. We went to a couple schools. We also had some events at our downtown station that we had some opportunities to do that. In our operations monthly report, you continue to see how we're tracking ridership and other indicators. We are going to be revising that report in the coming months to show a little more depth and a little more trending in terms of where we are in current year and against previous years. So be on the lookout for that. That's going to take a little bit of time. We had a series of reports that we used to do back in 2016, 17 that were a little more in depth. The issue is they were built by hand, right? So it took a really long time to put those together. We feel we can pull that information from other sources and provide some depth. Our goal with our operations reports is to show how the agency is tracking both to the board and to the public. So that's going to be a fast track item for us. Now, fast track item means, right, we've got to determine how best to pull that and how we tie that together with our ERP system as well. So be on the lookout for those, but I'll take any questions on any of those reports if you have.
So thank you for highlighting that contract for professional development. I was kind of just had some curiosity around that. And then I have a question on this contract for alternative work concepts, and maybe it's something I should know, but I'm just being dense today. But travel training and transit host and assessment services, what does that mean?
Yeah, so that's a portion of our Ride Source program that happens downtown, trains people how to use the service, provides information. So folks who qualify for our paratransit service, but may be able to use our fixed route service, we're able to train them how to do that. It provides for a higher level of flexibility and, quite frankly, freedom, because you don't have to, the less trips you can do on the more trips you can do on fixed route means you can be spontaneous. I'm getting my words right, spontaneous. When you use our paratransit service, you have to book your trip the day before, and then you get a pickup window, and it's a little more constraining. So we invest in that, and there's a cost savings for us. So the more people that go on to the fixed route, use our fixed route for trips, we save on them by not using paratransit, which are considerably higher per trip cost.
Okay, thank you. Didn't know what that meant. I do have one more question. On the board member reports or the operations monthly report, thanks for highlighting that too. I do have some questions just in value of the information that we're receiving there. For me, it would be helpful to look at it from a perspective of trending, but also how that compares to our goals.
Yeah.
Our ridership goals, are these goals, what, those goals. And then information for me that would be helpful. So reading through there, the number of complaints, I can see they're going up or down, or what, direction they're going, but what types of complaints are we receiving? What are the concerns from our riders? And on all of those categories, compliments, concerns, any of those things would be just helpful to have some context around them.
I agree with you 1,000%. And so there are several places where you can get that information. And again, from a transparency, we want to make sure that it's readily available, right? So we're going to be putting that together. We do have dashboards on our website that show where we're tracking to different goals. In terms of our, I call it customer feedback, whether it's a complaint or a compliment, what does it really mean? And what's the actionable item that comes out of there? Is it an opportunity to educate the public? Is it an opportunity to assess a policy? We have a team that has started to look at those and really assess what those are, and we'll be including those as well. Appreciate that.
Well done, Michelle. Anything else? Okay. So board members' reports. Information for future board meetings.
I did attend the Lane,
Oh, sorry.
the Lane Act. And they are nominating new officers. They've had quite a bit of shifting and new members, et cetera. So they're trying to identify some leadership. And they had a report this time regarding that involved the transportation package as well and kind of what's coming down the pipeline. So that group spent a bit of time on bylaws and things like that. So quite a bit of procedure and of course a lot of projects there. So
Thank you. Any other reports? Okay. Information for future board meetings, anything to add or?
One thing I'll highlight, we talked about this at the previous meeting. Next month, we do elections. So we'll be looking at president, vice president, secretary, and treasurer for the board. So start thinking, around that. We sent out bylaws previously that speak to what those roles entail. But we want to have that next month. Gino will be terming from his presidency at the end of December. So it's important that we have that election at our next meeting.
question about that. I don't know this actually. We don't have a natural succession. So our vice chair doesn't automatically roll into, we do a full on new slate?
It doesn't automatically do that as a matter of practice.
Right.
It might have in the past, and that's what I see a lot of other entities do as a matter of practice, but I don't think as a matter of requirement.
Okay. Good distinction. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay. At this point, the Lane Transit District Board of Directors is going to meet in executive non-public session pursuant to ORS 192-660-2I to review and evaluate the employment-related performance of Chief Executive Officer, and ORS 192-660-2H to consult with counsel concerning the legal rights and duties of a public body with regard to current litigation or litigation likely to be filed. And at the conclusion of the executive session, the session will adjourn, the board will return to regular session. Only representatives of the news media and designated staff shall be allowed to attend the executive session. All other members of the audience are asked to leave the room. You get to go home.